Have you ever been called crazy just because you wake up too early, train harder than others, turn down invitations, and choose silence over noise? You might not even see yourself as that extreme, but all it takes is a few simple choices, a routine, cutting distractions, saying no to the unnecessary, and suddenly people start looking at you differently. The jokes begin. The friendly advice rolls in. You need to relax. You're taking this too seriously. You're going to burn out like that. But what they really saying is, your discipline is making me uncomfortable. And that's the truth. Most people won't admit. Real discipline is rarely understood. It's often feared. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, knew this better than anyone. He wasn't just unbeatable in combat, he chose a life of solitude, harsh training, and quiet intensity, even when he didn't have to. He slept on the ground, traveled alone, trained with a monk-like obsession, not for glory, not for applause, but because he understood something most never do. The way is in training, nothing else. This wasn't just about swordsmanship, it was about life, training, discipline, commitment to something beyond comfort. That's the real battlefield. And the moment you walk that path seriously, you'll start hearing it. Why are you doing this? You don't need to go that far, because to most people, your behavior seems out of place. Sink, out of control. But is it really? In today's world, just saying you wake up at 5 a.m. is enough to get strange looks. Telling people you don't drink or that you stay off social media on weekends makes you sound like a rebel. And if you go further, saying you train your body, mind, and spirit every single day, you become an alien, or worse, a fanatic. Why? Because discipline holds up a mirror, and that mirror reflects everything people are trying to hide from themselves. Their lack of direction, their surrender to comfort, their disguised mediocrity. Your presence becomes a challenge to their excuses. This isn't just theory. Social psychology studies have shown that non-conforming behavior creates discomfort in groups. Solomon Ash's famous conformity experiments revealed how people will often go along with the crowd within when the crowd is clearly wrong. Standing out, even for the right reasons, invites resistance. So now imagine what happens to someone who not only stands out for a moment, but lives that way every day. That's the path of the disciplined. You don't need to be a monk. You don't need to be a samurai. Today, simply having self-control puts you on the edge of society. Take David Goggins, for example, former Navy SEAL ultramarathon runner. People call him insane for training until his feet bleed. But he replies, "I'm not special. Just willing to do what others won't." That's the key. Discipline isn't about talent. It's about choice. And that choice comes with a cost. You'll give up comfort. You'll only give up You'll give up the applause of the average. You'll be labeled obsessed, arrogant, antisocial, because to a world drowning in distraction, focus is offensive. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote in on the genealogy of morality that society tends to lower the noble in order to protect the weak. The more you rise above the herd, the more the herd pulls you back down, not out of hate. Hauchi ha fear. Fear of what you represent. Proof that they could have done more. You become a threat to their narrative. And that's when they call you crazy. Musashi embraced this. He said, "Do not seek a life of ease. The easy road leads nowhere." So he trained as if his life depended on it, because in many ways it did. Discipline reshapes you. It sculpts not only your body, but your vision, your voice, your presence. And here's the price most aren't willing to pay: isolation. Because at first, discipline creates distance. You drift away from meaningless conversations, from empty habits, from shallow relationships. You begin to choose, and people fear those who choose too much. What looks like isolation is actually preparation. While the world chases noise and approval, the disciplined dig deep. They plant roots, and with chimi, they become unshakable, like a tree that grows slowly, while weeds rise quickly and die. Discipline doesn't just improve you, it silences the world around you. And in that silence, you begin to hear something very your own voice. So next time someone calls you crazy for taking your life seriously, smile, because maybe you are crazy. Crazy enough to be free. Crazy enough to be true to yourself. Crazy enough not to quit. And maybe that's the best kind of madness there is. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to become a member of this channel. Your support helps keep these reflections alive, deep, and accessible in an internet drowning in shallow content. Thank you for walking this path with me. Have you ever felt like the more seriously you take your life, the harder it becomes for others to understand you? It's as if the world around you is speaking a different language, moving at a different rhythm. You're focused, committed, deliberate, but to them, you seem distant, rigid, or even cold. And little by little, admiration turns into discomfort. Curiosity turns into sarcasm. And that gap between you and them grows wider. But here's the real question. Is it you that's going too far? Or is everyone else afraid to go at all? The truth is simple and harsh. Discipline makes people uncomfortable because it exposes the disorder they normalized. We live in a culture that worships the idea of balance. But what kind of balance are we talking about? The balancy of constant scrolling, of just one more episode, of skipping the gym because you had a long day, of treating discipline as optional but craving success as if it were a right. Let's be honest, this is imbalance. It's distraction in disguise. It's short-term pleasure wearing the mask of self. Psychologist Philip Sina, known for the Stanford prison experiment, spoke of a modern epidemic passive hedonism, a lifestyle built on avoiding discomfort at all costs. And this isn't just among teenagers or the so-called lost generation. This mindset has infected professionals, parents, even leaders. In that kind of world, the disciplined person becomes a problem, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because their resistance challenges everyone else's excuses. Your presence makes them question their patterns. Your choices break the social contract of complacency. Your silence becomes louder than their noise. And here's the paradox. What looks like too much to others is often just the bare minimum for someone chasing excellence. Let's look at Chisomi facts. In 2015, Microsoft published a study that shot researchers worldwide. The average human attention span dropped to 8 seconds less than that of a goldfish. De causi. Constant digital stimulation, endless scrolling, fractured focus. In this environment, sitting still with your thoughts, reading a full book, or simply doing deep, meaningful work has become an act of rebellion. So when you choose focus, when you turn off distractions and train your body, sharpen your mind and guard your time, you're not just different, you're dangerous to a system that profits from your weakness. But discipline isn't about rebellion for the sake of it. It's not about being better than anyone. It's about becoming sovereign over your own impulses. Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman explains this in his research on dopamine regulation. When we pursue effort-based goals, we delay gratification and choose the harder path. Our brains start producing dopamine in a healthier, more sustainable way. The result, more energy, more focus, less need for shallow rewards. Discipline then doesn't just change your behavior. It rewires your brain. But here's the catch. The more disciplined you become, the less you seek what everyone else craves. And that isolates you. Most relationships are built around shared indulgence, eating too much, spending too much, complaining, blaming, numbing. When you walk away from that, you often walk away from people. To that, and that hurts. Not because you missed the habit, but because you realize how shallow many connections were to begin with. It's like stepping out of a dark room into sunlight. At first, it burns your eyes, but then you start to see. So what do you do with that vision? Here's where the real challenge begins. Can you stay disciplined even when it feels like you're walking alone? Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once wrote, "Those who have a why can endure almost any how." He wasn't talking about productivity. He was talking about purpose. Discipline is hard, but discipline with purpose becomes power. It's not about grinding every day for no reason. It's about choosing the narrow path because you know exactly where it leads. It's about making peace with temporary loneliness because you're building something that doesn't need applause to be real. Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that true freedom comes from mastering your desires. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the strength to do what's right, especially when you don't feel like it. And that's why people misunderstand the discipline, because the disciplined no longer belong to their environment. They've outgrown the emotional economy of fitting in. They've stopped asking for permission. Look at athletes like Kobe Bryant. He was often called obsessed, extreme, unbalanced, but he once said, "If I'm not willing to do what others won't, how can I expect to have what they never will?" It's not arrogance, it's clarity. What others see as sacrifice, the disciplined see as alignment. What others call insanity, they call purpose. And that purpose, that burning reason to keep going when no one else understands, becomes the fuel that separates those who dabble from those who master. Because discipline, in its purest form, is quiet. It doesn't need to post online. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't flinch when misunderstood. It just continues that step by step, hour by hour, choice by choice. And yes, you will feel strange, out of place, out of touch, but that's not a sign you're lost. It's a sign you're waking up. You're stepping out of the collective trance and stepping into your own rhythm, your own path. Yes, you'll lose some things, but what you gain is priceless. Inner calm, clarity of direction, and above all, the unshakable conviction that you're no longer for sale. You belong to something greater. And that leads us to the final chapter, where what was once mistaken for madness becomes the highest form of power and freedom. And then it all begins to make sense. What once felt like doubt now feels like direction. What once felt like isolation now feels like strength. Discipline, the same thing that others mocked, questioned, or feared, now reveals its true name: freedom. Because when you master your habits, your emotions, and your impulses, nothing outside of you can master you. You may be insulted, but you don't crumble. You may be tempted, but you don't fold. You may be pressured, but you don't sell out. This isn't rigidity. This is sovereignty. And Musashi knew it. The end of his life, with no more battles to fight and nothing left to prove, he wrote Decade, the path of a 21 short principles to live by. One of them reads, "Do not regret what you have done." Another says, "Do not fear death." But hidden between the lines is the voice of a man who became so disciplined he no longer needed anything from the world. He no longer needed validation. He had become complete, not perfect, complete. That is the quiet power of discipline when it matures. It stops being a struggle and becomes who you are. You don't force it anymore. You just live it. And people sense that they may not understand it, but they recognize something in you that they can't explain. It's a stillness, a presence, a focus. They wonder, how does he do it? How does she keep going? Why does this look effortless? And the answer is simple. Because you stop negotiating with your own soul. You no longer seek excuses. You no longer explain your standards. You no longer look for applause. You simply walk with intention, with clarity, with peace. In Zen philosophy, there's a concept called Shoshin, beginner's mind. It means approaching life with curiosity, humility, and presence. even after years of experience. And that's what true discipline gives you, the ability to live fully, to see clearly, to act purely, not because you have to, but because you want to. We've been sold a false idea of freedom. Do whatever you want, whenever you want. But that's not freedom. That's chaos. Real freedom is choosing what's right consistently, even when it's hard. It's creating your own code and having the courage to live by it, not to prove anything, but because your life demands it. This is where everything shifts. The discipline that once made you feel alone now makes you powerful. It becomes your armor, your compass, your tempo. Musashi didn't seek admiration. He sought mastery. He knew that a true warrior isn't the one who wins the most fights, but the one who masters himself so deeply that nothing outside can defeat him. And maybe, just maybe, that's the greatest lesson of all. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about staying the course when others quit, staying silent when others panic, staying grounded when others beg for attention, because those who stay transform. They turn pain into strength, noise into clarity, doubt into direction. They realize that discipline is not a prison. It's the path to transcendence. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need to be a monk in a temple. You don't need to be a samurai in battle. You just need to be someone who refuses to waste this one life. Maybe your discipline is in your craft. Maybe it's in your fitness. Maybe it's in healing, or building, or parenting, or simply surviving with integrity. Whatever it is, the path is the same. Own it. Walk it. Protect it. And when they call you crazy, smile. Because being called crazy is a compliment. When your madness is commitment to something bigger than yourself, that's the mark of the rare ones. The ones who chose the hard path. The ones who didn't settle for a life on autopilot. The ones who understood discipline is the ultimate act of freedom. So if this journey spoke to you, share it with someone who's walking their own silent battle. Someone who needs to remember that they're not alone. And if you want to support this message, if you want to help keep this space alive, consider becoming a member of this channel. Together, we're keeping the fire of discipline burning in a world that desperately needs it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. And above all, thank you for choosing the harder path.